Naija Newspaper Review.
Good morning and you're welcome once again to the Naija Newspaper Review here on City Mirror TV. I'm your host Amanego Abraham and I'll be taking you through the various Nigeria's top stories for today. And yes, I won't be doing it alone. I have with me Comrade Olowo Emmanuel, a human rights activist who will be reviewing today's newspapers with me. And good morning and you're welcome to today's edition of the program.
It's a pleasure. I'm happy to be in the studio with you this morning.
Okay, seems so. And now moving to the Nation newspapers. At the front page says ICAO's 91.45% aviation safety rating aside Tinubu. Federal government rolls out new strategy to stabilize food prices, boost production. FCCPC sees estates overs default to subscribers. Wike not lock in talks to end strike. Oil marketers, airline operators, regulators to restore Jet A1 price crisis swiftly, and you can get the news on page 4 of the Nation newspaper. Governor align plans for state police. Oidele allows a brief NGF. El-Rufai arraigned in Abuja for intercepting Ribadu's phone's chats. Agency seeks order to conceal witnesses' identities. Senate considers $516 million foreign loan request for Sokoto Badagry Superhighway, and the news story is on page 7 of the Nation newspaper. And now to the major headline or major story on the front page of the Nation newspaper. APC targets rancor-free primaries with reverse plan. Nomination forms open to all eligible party members. Electronic list of members sent to INEC. And now by the side we have the timetable. House of Representative set for Friday, May 15. Senate Monday, May 18. House of Assembly Wednesday, May 20. Governorship Thursday, May 21. Presidential Saturday, May 23. And screening May to 6/9. May to 6/9. So, Comrade Olowo Emmanuel, now you'll be talking on the major headline, which is APC targets rancor-free primaries with reverse plan. Nomination forms open all eligible party members. Electronic list of members sent to INEC, and their timetable, which I've just read now.
Yes, whatever has happened within the APC is a party thing. And every party in a democracy like this, every party will definitely look at a way at which there will not be crisis within the party. However, to me as a person, I cannot say or cannot doubt that after their primaries there will not be crisis. But however, the best part of democratic system is for every political parties to ensure and to put in all what it takes for them to have a party or a party primaries that will be rancor-free. Because, however, if there is rancors within the primaries, there are crises in the primaries, automatically there will be a loopholes for other opposition to find their way to power. So whatever is happening within the APC is a party thing as we speak, and I felt that every political parties will always develop or deploy a strategy to win elections. So I think part of what they are doing within their party as we speak is a strategy which they have adopted that will make them remain in power.
Okay, now the story is telling us that the APC has target rancor-free primaries with reverse plan. That means they have reversed their plan, reschedules their timetable for their primaries elections, and then nomination forms has been made open to eligible members, and the elections list of members has been sent to the INEC's office. Now moving forward to the leadership newspaper. Nigeria launches desperate talent drive to send scouts UK students youth games for future stars on page 29 of the leadership newspaper. Zulliums hails Tinubu's approval of 68 billion naira for Maiduguri emergency power plant. Atiku, Economics Force proposed $560 million Sokoto Badagry highway loan. 12 of 416 Goshi captives escaped from Boko Haram terrorists. 2027 APC adjusts timetable, moves presidential primaries to May 23. DSS arraigns El-Rufai's over alleged tapping of Rabadu's phone. 2027 Obi meets Governor Bala, 6 Northeast Southeast Alliance on page 22. Fintiri Malls as insurgents kills 9 in Adamawa, and that you can get that on page 12. Aviation fuel crisis. Kiamu's meetings with airlines, marketers, regulators end in deadlock. No domestic airline will fly in the next 7 days if nothing is done, says Oyema. NASA, we're looking at the Zulum hails Tinubu's approval of 68 billion for Maiduguri emergency power plants. Now, what do you have to say concerning that?
For whatever we'll be doing as a country, electricity is important. But the question we have to ask ourselves is, every of the funds we have deployed for electricity and energy, over time, what has been the outcome, and how are the resources been managed over time? However, if the Tinubu administration is seeking more loans, deploying more funds and resources to power plants and water works, if they are ready to do it well, Nigerians have no problem with that. So, to me as a person, is that our position, or the position of the Nigerian people as we speak, is that whatever the Tinubu administration is seeking to do or willing to do, let them at least do it, and do it very, very fine. Since 1999, Nigeria as a country has been investing in electricity. And as of today, we have not really attained what the Nigerian people can even use to power themselves, not to talk of powering our industries. So whatever they are expending on electricity, they should just ensure that they are doing it well. Because to me, we have gotten to a point in Nigeria whereby it has now begun to come to a point whereby we begin to beg our leaders. Because the way they are positioning the system, running the government, positioning themselves, on daily basis, it is becoming difficult for the Nigerian people to come and vote. But the only day of revolution that the Nigerian people have, like I've always been saying, is on election day. So if we now think that every 4 years we'll be coming to be having the same style of appointing them, putting them to power, and them forcing themselves on us, that has never yielded anything. At this point, the best option for us is to begin to beg our leaders to tell them that, please, whatever you are using every of these funds for, do it very, very well, do it properly, and let it work for the Nigerian people.
Okay, thank you very much. And now to the Nigeria Tribune newspaper. 2027 ramblings in APC over aborted deal with lawmakers. Tinubu wades in meets governors. Sorry, I take that again. 2027 ramblings in APC over aborted deal with lawmakers. Tinubu wades in, meets governors. And get on page 6. DSS arraigned El-Rufai for alleged intercepting NSA's phone's conversation. Tinubu seeks Senate approval for $516 million loan to finance Sokoto Badagry Superhighway. Request must be thoroughly scrutinized, says Atiku, and that can be gotten on page 3. NADDC, AFDB seek cooperation on development of Nigeria e-mobility ecosystem. Troop files attack in Yobe, key 24 terrorists. And on health, study says walking more reduces risk of death by 40%, heart disease by 20%. More information on page 19 of the Nigeria Tribune newspaper. Southern traditional rulers meet in Port Harcourt. Tinubu deserves re-election for his eviction, says Fubara, and that's on page 10. APC chief presidential governorship primaries. and that's on page 18, of which we've talked about, from the nation's newspaper. Dangote refinery exports 1.60 billion liters of aviation fuel to Europe, supplies 95% of Nigeria's jet AI. Now to the Guardian newspaper. Obi Bauchi governor bids as Labour Party shut door amid fears of PDP feeding candidate, and that's on page 3. Delay special seat for women bill may undermine 2027 polls, reps warns. ADC Atiku query new loans as Senate considers $560 million request for Sokoto Badagry projects. Federal government arraigned El Rufai on amended charge over alleged security breach. Cross River denies 10 new COVID-19 cases, media reports. Oyedele commits to reforms once against abroad policy reversal on page 18. APC tightens coordination as Tinubu leads consultations, adjusts primary timetable. Zamfara Kano government sponsor 1,600 couples mass wedding on page 29. Anxiety over fate of 460 captives as 12 escaped from Boko Haram, and page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. Meter providers, manufacturers accuse discos of extortion, and that's on page 7. Migration Organization records 8,000 deaths, missing persons in 2025, and it's on page 7 of the Guardian newspaper. And now on the major story, it says, Flag bearers, how caucus consensus candidacy erodes internal democracy in parties. And I'll be reading a little bit into the stories, which says, from a special purpose vehicle designed to inhibit the monetization of policies and curb rancorous primaries, the nomination by consensus has left parties in tatters and in smothering chaos nationwide. Our reporters have it that the tension triggered has not only escalated fault lines amongst the parties, but also exposed a lack of internal democracy and widened leadership struggles. Section 82, Subsection 2 of the Electoral Act 2026 narrowed the options for nominating candidates for political office to just 2, direct primaries and consensus, effectively scrapping the long-standing corruption-landing delegate system. While direct primaries utilizes a one-member, one-vote model that allows party members to vote at the ward level, the consensus models at enshrined in Section 84, Subsection 9 comes with stringent conditions, including the written withdrawal of all cleared aspirants and ratification at a special convention or congress. Comrade Emmanuel Lowo, I think this one has to do with your own field, which is you being a human rights activist, and I believe you can do judgment to this. How caucus consensus candidacy erode internal democracy in parties?
See, the beauty of democracy is everybody coming to the floor to vote and be voted for. So when we are not talking about a consensus candidate, it is not going to give, it's not going to show the true picture of what democracy ought to look alike. Like the days of the past where we are going to have a kind of elections from the primary, from the ward level, and where candidates themselves will have to move around. It shows and it defines what democracy should look like. But when we are now talking about a consensus candidate, it is not giving us the best picture of what a democracy is going to look like. But however, when leaders are taking a decisions, I have discovered over time that when they are making their laws, they look at laws that is going to favor themselves, not the policy itself, not the programs, what the definitions of democracy really looks like. And that is part of why we are here. Everything everybody is doing, every policy, every governance style has a definition, has a clear path. We should learn to always follow that path. Me as a person, going by the path of a consensus candidate cannot really help Nigerians' democracy. Every Nigerians have to be a part and parcel of every of the democratic process from the ward level to the local government level, to the state level, and to the federal level. So, to us as an advocate, we will continue to express our mind, express our differences, saying it till when our political head and leaders are going to listen to what the Nigerian people are saying.
Okay, thank you very much. And to the next story, which says ADC article query new loans as Yes, ADC article query new loans as Senate considers 560 million requests for Sokoto Badagry projects. Now, the news stories from the Guardian newspaper says the Senate on Wednesday received a formal request from the President Bola Tinubu seeking legislative approval for a foreign financing arrangement of $560 million for the construction of the Sokoto Badagry superhighway. Senate President Godswill Akpabio called the debates on the foreign loan request on a blunt admission of Nigeria's fiscal strain, but insisted that national development cannot stall because of revenue shortage. However, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar fired a broadside at Tinubu, warning that Nigeria must not borrow blindly in the name of development. Also, the African Democratic Congress ADC Legislator Forums raised concern over the timing and economic viability of the Senate approval of the loan. Now, the loan is structured with a 9-year tenure, including a grace period of up to 3 years, and carries an interest rate not exceeding the Chicago Mercantile Exchange CME SOFR plus 5.3% yearly. The federal government will also provide counterpart funding of 265.5 billion naira, embarked for land acquisition, compensation, and ancillary infrastructure. The proposed Sokoto Badagry superhighway is a flagship national project designed to connect Sokoto, Kebbi, Niger, Kwara, Oyo, Ogun, and Lagos states, stretching from Ilela to Badagry. We know that we Nigeria, we are one of the biggest debtors right now.
Yes.
Every time we keep hearing borrowing of loans, and now ADC and Atiku query new loans as Senate consider $560 million request for Sokoto Badagry project.
Yep. It's unfortunate that we have met ourselves as Nigerians in the hands of those who are leading us. It is very, very unfortunate. Let us quickly have this breakdown. A country cannot continue to borrow like we are borrowing. On the ground that we want to develop our country, on the grounds of we want to go into capital projects, why the life of the common man is not in the right perspectives. Now the question is, when we keep taking loans to build houses, to build bridges, to build roads, and the welfare of the Nigerian people, or how we are going to even pay that loan, is not even put to consideration. There are meritorious times that they are going to give to us, at least to relax ourselves and pay 5.something% interest rate yearly. When you look at the terms, you are going to discover that after the first 3 years that they are talking about now, the present administration, maybe if it wins the next election, in the middle of it, other government that will come also will continue to pay that loan. And if we are not setting when we are not setting the country to the right perspectives, what happens is that when the next person wants to come on board, it will still also have to borrow also to continue. So automatically, Nigeria as a country will continue to roam or swim within the rivers of loans. Now, my own argument is that instead of us borrowing money, why can't us develop our economic style within the Nigerian context? How Nigerians will be able to live a more comfortable life. The question we should ask ourselves is that after they have built every of this, who are the contractors they are giving these projects to? Who are those handling it? Are the ministries handling overseeing every of this project? Are they doing the best or giving us the best? Or however, the amount of loan, the level of loan that we have collected before, how far have we gone? What have we had to show for every of this loan collected? Let me quickly digress a bit. I've always been telling people, those who are leading the country as we speak does not really have the care of the Nigerian people at heart. For example, in Lagos, we had it on news that they said anybody who is using solar must pay a certain amount of money. People revolted. And at the end of the day, the governor of Lagos State came on board and say it is not meant for individuals but for industries. The question is that I have always been telling people, even solar energy, solar power is more expensive than the electricity that we talk about. So if a government has failed in providing electricity and industries are looking for alternatives for them to run their investments, and the government is now still asking for tax for installing such solar panels and things like that, it's an indication that the set of people leading the country are not serious people who are only concerned about how to make more money, make more wealth, steal the resources of the country and waste the resources. So to me as a person, if the Nigerian government as we speak is requesting for a 500 and something trillion naira loan, 16 loan,
$60 million.
In dollars, yes, thanks for making that correction. In dollars, it's an indication that those who are leading the Nigerian people are not people who have what at heart. That is why it is important for the Nigerian people themselves to take a decision by themselves as we approach the forthcoming election. Either we continue with this set of people that will continue to take us into the ocean of borrowing, making us to swim in debt all the time, or we take a decision for ourselves. Thank you.
That's all we can take from the Guardian newspaper. Moving forward to the Vanguard newspaper, at the front page says glitz, glamour as Vanguard awardees step forth today. Event is live on NTA, Channels TV, Arise TV. Tinubu writes Senate seeks approval to borrow fresh 560 million loan, as we've said earlier. 20 killed in fresh Bornu Plateau attack. You get that news on page 7 of the Guardian newspaper, Vanguard newspaper. CBN increases ATM card insurance fee by 50% to 1,500 naira. That's on page 19. APC shift governors presidential primaries to May 21, 23, says contest open to all. And now to these days newspaper. Tinubu seeks Senate note for 560 million foreign loans to fast-track Sokoto-Badagry superhighway. Federal government arraigned El-Rufai for alleged wiretapping Ribadu's phone. Tinubu to governors. Our primaries must be hitch-free to preserve APC unity, cohesion. Party issues reverse timetable, fixed presidential primary for May 25, Guba 23. Dangote plans Nigeria scale refinery in East Africa, seek partnership with Ruto. Museveni set 4 years period for completion of projects. Refinery experts 1.1 billion liters of aviation fuel to Europe. Leaders push for regions industrialization. High oil imports pushes South Africa Nigeria's trade volumes to $2.60 billion. And now to the Daily Trust. Tinubu seek 560 million loan for Sokoto-Badagry Superhighway 2027. Peter Obi pushes for Southeast North Alliance. How abducted UniJust students regained freedom. El-Rufai in court over Ribadu's phone hack. FCTA converts Abuja hospital land to private estate. Troops repels attack, neutralized 24 insurgents in Yobe. Zulliums commends Tinubu's over 68 billion naira Maiduguri power project. Vigilante beats core members to death in Benue. Now, what do you have to say concerning the vigilante beat core members to death in Benue? Because I believe core members are said to be government properties, people under the government.
You see, it is quite unfortunate that to me as a person, when we look at the way the NYSC is being structured, I can actually say maybe it has outlived its purposes. But however, if we are saying it hasn't outlived its purposes, then we have to ask our government the question: are they protecting them the way they are expected to be protected? When I was serving 14 years back, we had a debate. There was a debate section, and the debate was to either oppose or to say if NYSC had outlived its purposes or it should continue. I was part of those during the programs that stated that it has outlived its purposes. Why? Because the government is not, the program itself is not developing the way it should look like. The fund that is always attached to it is not always like that of the past. And when you look at the challenges that the Nigerian people faces while traveling, some have accidents, some are being adopted by Boko Haram insurgents and things like that. Like what you just read now, a vigilante beats a corps member to death. To me, I will say we should stop wasting the life of the Nigerian people. If the Nigerian government cannot protect them, then I think maybe NYSC should be scrapped. If we cannot scrap it in totality, maybe we should pause it for a while, maybe till after 15 years, if the Nigerian security structure, if the Nigerian government has invested in education. Because an indication is, if a vigilante discovers somebody is a corps member and he had to beat that corps member or assault that corps member, it's an indication maybe those areas, they are not educated. He's not educated, he knows nothing about education. He felt that if I do it, who is going to hold me responsible? Who is going to hold me accountable? And that is why they had gone ahead and take such decision and make that young boy, and makes us as a country lose someone, a corps member at that. So what I'm trying to say by and large is that if the government cannot provide protection, security for every of our corps members that will be going out to serve the country, I think maybe the government should place it on a pause for now. Maybe for the next 20 years, let us put a stop and let us try what we could to put our country in the right perspective before we will continue with the NYSC project. Thank you.
Now, this story is on a vigilante. And who are vigilante? They are people who ensure the security of a community. Now, these persons are supposed to protect the people, not to assault them or beat them to death. Now, a corps member is someone who leaves his state for another state just to serve his nation, and yet he or she met her dismissed. Now, this is a terrible story, and the government need to apprehend the suspects immediately. And moving on to the next story, still on Daily Trust. 2027, Peter Obi pushes for Southeast North Alliance. How possible is this, Comrade Madam?
Like I always say, there are some, you see, every politician has a strategy, and everybody will continue to throw his strategy on how to win election. If Peter Obi is pushing for that, I think that is their best way of looking at it. That when we go through this route, we are going to definitely take over the government in the next few months and what have us. So to me, as a person, I will not say whatever he is pushing cannot come to light or cannot make him achieve what its party or what he tends to achieve. I will not say no, but I will believe that every political, it's all because election, democracy is all about political permutation. And what you have heard him say is a permutation on how he assumed that they can win election. But to me as a person, whatever permutation, without a clear understanding, without a clear spirit of, after our primaries, whatever happens, every one of us will remain united against the present ruling class. Will never lead them anywhere. Even if they should take whatever, pick themselves from whatever region, after their primaries, after what have you, after they have picked their presidential candidates, if they are not united, the present administration is still going to beat them seriously in the election. So what they should be working on now is the ability to be united, the ability to commit their resources, their time, their energy, even when the poorest of them is picked as the candidate of the party.
All right, thank you very much. And now we'll look into the Western Post Nigeria's headlines. That will be looking on the major headlines from the Western Post Nigeria's, and the first story here says Middle East crisis, Tinubu assures Gulf states of Nigeria supports urge global peace. Now, our president is assuring the Gulf states of Nigeria support urge for global peace, while the Nigeria itself is a no.
You see, I have looked at the Nigerian system. There was a time I was coming from Abuja, and I saw a pipeline during Buhari's administration. I now asked the driver, where is this pipe going to? They said the pipe is going towards Niger. And I began to ask myself a question. We have not solved the problem of our country. We are prognosing into the affairs of other countries. To me, whatever Tinubu might be saying, that global peace, the world itself should ask the present administration led by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, that is Nigeria as a country peaceful. Today, I watched on Facebook yesterday that John, that guy from Jos, has been released by Boko Haram, and that this set of people has also showcased someone, also one of those they adopted. They have also showed him. So they know the family of that guy could not raise that money also. They are now asking for the public to pay. Now the question is that if we are passing through challenges in Nigeria and our president is not ashamed and still talking about global peace, then we think the world should ask him a question of how have he been able to solve the problem or restore peace into the Nigerian system. That is the question we have to ask the president.
Okay, and now the last headline from the Western Post Nigeria. Ocean governments inaugurate security trust fund attracts 1 billion plus donation. And the story says the Osun State government has launched the State Security Trust Fund with an initial donation of 300 billion aid at strengthening the state security architecture. Speaking at the launch on Thursday in Osogbo, Governor Ademola Adeleke described the initiative as a critical intervention designed to address funding gaps in the security sector, stressing that it is neither political nor self-serving. Adeleke said the fund will support the establishment of a modern situation room equipped with a real-time CCTV surveillance, as well as the procurement of operational tools for security agencies. He called on corporate organizations, financial institutions, development partners, and individuals to contribute to the initiative, noting that the protection of lives and property is a collective responsibility. He assured the stakeholders and the people of transparency and accountability.
Now, the area at which I want to look at is one of the best steps that the administration has taken to have organized such trust fund. You see, security is very, very expensive, and security should be everybody's business, and everybody has to contribute to it. As everybody will have to contribute to security, so also every Nigerians, every corporate institution also have to contribute to education, because every of these two things work together. If education is not sound, automatically our security will not also be sound. When people are well educated, we are going to solve the problem. We have already solved a particular percent of insecurity in a society. So as we are talking about security trust fund, we should also be talking about education trust fund. But what the decision that the present Osun State government has taken is one of the best that I will applaud this administration for. But the areas at which we are going to, that I will be talking about, is that it is not just about us having an education trust fund, not having a security trust fund. It's not just about that. It is also about us promulgating a law. A law has to come alongside with the security trust fund, making the government to be more responsible. And what I think should be in that law is that, for example, if we start implementing this trust fund and whatever, and if after we have done it, somebody from Osun is being adopted by a kidnapper, somebody of Osun, kidnappers invade Osun, and some set of people are victims, it should be the duty and the responsibility of the Osun State government to pay such ransom and to compensate such indigene of the state. Not just about us having a trust fund, not just about us having an ICT unit that gives us real-time result of what is happening. After, we must now have a law. After we had put every of these things in place, if any persons from any indigenes of Osun is being kidnapped within the Osun boundaries, then it should be the duties and responsibility of the Osun State government to pay for the ransom, to pay compensation to the victim itself, not just about we are running a government and Nigerians are now a victim of what they cannot now becomes a victim of kidnapping. You are now expecting that it is this family that will be responsible for the payment of such ransom. It should be the state and the federal government.
So you are saying from the deduction being made, if anybody being kidnapped in the state, the government should be the one.
Yes, the government should be the one to pay the ransom. That is why I say, after we have organized this trust fund, we have generated money for our security, we have put in place our ICT section, we have put in place everything. The next point of call is that the legislative arm also have to make a law that is now going to protect the Nigerian people, the people of Osun State specifically, that if any indigene of Osun fall victim of kidnapping within the boundary of Osun State, it should be the duties and responsibility of the state to pay the ransom. So when the government now becomes the one that is paying the ransom, the government will now become more serious about how they are going to handle insecurity issues in the state and in Nigeria.
From what you just said right now, I just have a question, because what you say can actually make much people go into kidnapping. See, they had that assurance that it has been put to law that the government will be the one paying. I think with that statement of yours, much people will be kidnapped on daily basis.
Now, let me quickly clarify it. I have studied the Nigerian system over time. Let us go back to road accident. When you look at what always leads to accident on the Nigerian road, you discover that it is the road itself that leads to accident on Nigerian road most at times. But the question is that whenever there is an accident, nobody holds the government accountable. Every family bears the brunt of the crisis that are before them. That is part of the reasons that the government itself is not always serious with the issue of putting our road in the right perspective. Now, let's now quickly correct this. It is the duty of the government to provide security for all, not even the duty of a citizen of a state to provide security for himself. His own role is for him or her to speak out, to report to the police whenever he sees. It is not his duty. So these are what the Nigerian people cannot handle by themselves, but it is the duty of the government. But over time, every state, every governor collects security votes. Let us ask ourselves a question. How are every of our governments spending their security votes on a monthly basis? That is a story or a question for another day. But the question is that what will now make the government now become more proactive is when they are paying through their nose. If more people are being kidnapped on daily basis and the government have to pay more money on daily basis, that is now going to make the government itself to be more proactive and be more serious with the issue of challenging insecurity in Nigeria. Let us ask ourselves a question. Do you know how many Nigerians that are fall victims of kidnapping and have been kidnapped, and at the end of the day, ransom was unable to be paid and they were killed? Do you know how many Nigerians have lost? And there are even some people that, as a result of the fact that the government does not respond, or the people could not raise the money very fast, they got the money very late, they paid the money very, very late, and the person had died. So when we now begin to hold the government responsible, not just about you buying vehicles, having CCTV cameras, if you have put every of those things in place, because the problem that we are discussing now is not a problem that emanates just started now. These are problems that have been in existence and have been in existence for long. And part of what led us here is because of the fact that the government itself failed in its responsibilities and duty to set the Nigerian people. And let us quickly chip in a bit. Why is it that we have more insurgencies in the northern part? It is basically because they have no education. They live in poverty. The government is not regulating the births of children. They give birth to children anyhow. And the Nigerian people and the Nigerian state is still counting on the numbers of children they have, that calculating it in terms of the numbers they have and the numbers of votes that will be coming out from the north. So if that is an advantage to them, the question we have to ask the Nigerian government, what are we doing to ensure that every person from the north can take care of the basic needs, can put at least the basic needs that their children and their family require, can put it on their table? How many of them can provide food? At the age of 32, a male child in the northern part is sent to the streets as alumongiri, and every of the northern people are happy about it. So the question is that the problem we are talking about started as a result of the fact that the past leaders of this country and the present leaders had failed in providing education. So for every problem that comes from that direction, it is the duty of the government to pay the ransoms.
Okay. Well, now, Comrade Emmanuel said it is the duty of the government to pay the ransom. Well, what I have to say is, if the government refuses to pay this ransom, there is a very possibility that these people will still end up dying.
Now, the fact is that let us be sincere with ourselves. If people are paying 10 million naira in this present economy to save the life of the Nigerians, the Nigerian people don't have the money. But we Nigerians are people that lost ourselves. Have you ever, let me cite an example. I saw a guy, his car got fire, and a lot of people rallied around him. Somebody was even going to work in that video, had to put off his shirt.
And then render help to him at that instance.
Okay,
now,
so that is what the Nigerian people replicate. But the problem we have is the failure on the leaders from the leadership of this country. That is why we will not just leave them that they should be the one to put the police in place. They should be the one to buy the armor cars. They should be the one to buy the arms and ammunition. We will not stop at that. Our advocacy has to go beyond that. We have to move to the point that if anybody is eventually kidnapped, you must be the one to be responsible for the payment of the ransom. When they pay, when they buy ammunition and their policy still fails, and they are forced to pay those ransom, it is going to make them to be more serious and zealous about fighting crimes in Nigeria.
Okay, those are the words of Comrades Emmanuel, and it was on the subject, or sorry, from the headlines of Osun Government inaugurates security trust fund, such as 1 billion plus donation, of which the governor has assured the stakeholders and people of transparency and accountability, and we hope this is carried out in good faith. And that brings us to an end to the Nigerian newspaper review, and I want to say to Comrade Olowo Emmanuel, thank you so much for your presence, as it meant so much with us. Thank you for your review. I am Omonego Abraham, and I say thank you for watching.